Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a ¿Qué pasa, mujer? Welcome to ¿Qué pasa, mujer? We're here every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Estamos aquí todos los domingos a las 4 de la tarde hablando de diferentes temas, talking about different topics. Today it's just myself and Maddie. We're going to go ahead and bring Maddie on so we can get started with our topic and talk about our week, since we always kind of like recap a little bit. Hola, Maddie, ¿cómo estás?
Buenas tardes, ¿qué pasa, mujer?
Qué
Doing
bueno,
good. Hope everyone is well.
Yes. I was thinking the other day how we're almost halfway through the year. Like, it is incredible that 2025 it's halfway done. Do you feel scary about that, or you're okay with the flow?
It went fast. I feel like it went really fast. Sometimes you know how life is. Sometimes it feels like, oh my God, things are not happening. It's not moving. And then, you blink and it's like, oh, it's May, end of May. So yeah.
Good. So before we got started with the show, we were Maddie and our producer. They're big into poetry. So tell us a little bit about what's happening in the poetry world, Maddie.
No, so we are getting ready to participate in the biggest national poetry competition that happens in the U.S. It's called Southern Fried, and it happens every year in one of the states in the South. Of course, that's the name, Southern Fried, but it is open to poetry teams around the country. So we have 32 teams going head to head for the title of Southern Fried Champions. Now every area that's participating is doing, fundraising events. We're doing scrimmages, kind of testing the waters and see how everybody is preparing. Have a lot of events coming up, particularly here in Virginia. It's the first time that we have 6 poetry teams. 6 teams representing the state of Virginia. So we have 4 teams from Richmond. We have a team from Williamsburg, and then we have a team from the Hampton Roads area, which is the Verbbenders, my team. So we're so excited. May 30th, we are getting ready to have a head-to-head. We call it Virginia All Day because it's all the teams from Virginia going head-to-head, kind of like a scrimmage fundraiser whole show event. So it's going to be at the Kimball Theater in Williamsburg, Virginia. So that's May 30th. Then June 4th, our team is having our send-off event. And it's usually where we showcase all the team poems that we are going to be featuring at Southern Fried. So if you are in the Virginia, in the Hampton Roads area, please come see us at the venue on 35th Street. The address is 631 West 35th Street in Norfolk, Virginia, and our doors open at 6:30, and we're going to be out there having fun and kind of showing you guys what we're bringing to Southern Fried. And then, of course, the competition, So Fried, happens from June 11th to June 14th, and it's going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee this year.
And I do want to say, if you come to the Norfolk event, opens door at 6:30. You want to be there like 5:30. Because I remember I went to one of your events. When I got there, it was like to capacity. I couldn't go in, so it gets packed.
It does. So it's not a big venue, but we try to fit as many of us as we can. It's going to be a fun day. Like I said, it's our last event before competition, and it's just a big showcase and having fun. So
good. I'm glad. So that's what's going on in the poetry world. That's exciting, right? So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today is body image, the image of a female and how it progresses, how it evolves as we get older. And then also how it can be looked at in a positive way and a negative way. So I know a lot of Mexicans use the word chingona. So that's the word that we'll go with today, right? But I think it's just that, the superpower that we have as women, right? And I know you men, you guys have lots of superpowers as well. But the show is called ¿Qué pasa, mujer? So we're going to highlight the females today. And I just feel, especially as a mother, Maddie, I feel my ex and I share the same sentiment in reference to motherhood. I think it's just amazing. I'm a mother of two boys. I have a 14-year-old and a 20-year-old. And I know last weekend was Mother's Day. And I wanted to share this with you guys. My oldest son, which he has become a little bit more distant because he's 20, but he's my firstborn. But he gave me this little plaque, right? And I'm gonna read it to you guys because it like melted my heart. But it says to my mom, so much of me is made from what I learned from you. I may have outgrown your lap, but I know I will never outgrow a place in your heart. It doesn't matter how old, big, and strong I become, I will always be your little boy, and you will always be my greatest mother. Thank you for the love and support. I love you forever and always love your son. And I just think it's amazing, because if you look, like the mom and the son are like touching foreheads, right? And I just, as I was thinking about the show today, I was just thinking about the superpowers that we have as women. And I was thinking, okay, Viviana, what's your number one superpower? And I was thinking that it's motherhood for me, especially because I've been able to see my children grow, and I know that there's so much more to come. And I know you're a little bit more ahead than I am because your children are older. But that's one of my biggest superpowers. So I wanted to ask you about your superpowers, Maddie.
Oh, I think it's just, being a woman, period. Because, like, being a woman is just so complex, and especially nowadays, because I feel like, back in the days, when we think about, our tradition and our heritage, women stayed in the house and raised the kids, but nowadays women have to do the same thing that men do, plus we have to do what women do. So, it's like, okay, I have to be a mom, I have to raise kids, I have to cook and clean and do all that. But then, I gotta wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, on Monday, and put my suit on and my heels, and I'm a banker, and I'm this professional woman, So, and it's like, okay, and then I walk through the door again and take my heels off, or not really, and then, start cooking and, be mom again, So it's like this duality of, I have to wear all these hats, and, and I have to manage, and I still have to love myself at the end of the day. And I might not understand that, I might not be able to get through everything, but I'm going to do the best that I can. And, just the whole complexity of, I am all these things, but I cannot be 100% of all the things if I want to do all the things. So I have to do the best that I can at doing all of the things. So.
Yeah, that is a superpower. Yesterday, I went to there's a local raceway here. It's called Langley Raceway, and I went because I sponsor one of the cars. Because the lady that drives it, she's one of my clients, and so she's the only female in her cycle of where whoever she competes with. She's the only female in that division or whatever. And it was just nice. I actually mentioned you yesterday because we were talking about women. Because I was talking to somebody else, and I was like, the race car driver, she is a race car driver, but in the daytime she's like a property manager, right? And then I said, like, like my friend Maddie, she's a poet, but in the daytime she's a banker. So I just think, like you said, we wear all these different hats. And I think the diversity of it, right? I love it. And one of the things that you mentioned, Maddie, was the self love part, right? I think, and we just kind of grow into these things. And I come in contact with a lot of young ladies that have really low self esteem, and because of that, they end up in relationships where they are not appreciated. And it's so easy to kind of blame the person that is doing the abuse, but I think there's a large portion there in reference to self-love. And it's I don't know, I wanted to get your input about that because I think it could be learned from how you were raised, but also you get exposed to social media, and then you have this image of what a female should look like, and if you don't fit that profile, then you start to be hard on yourself, and then you start to settle for things, even if it's just mental things. So I wanted to get your input about that.
I agree. I agree 100%. Sometimes, um, you can't help but to compare yourself to other people, you know. That's why we talk about all the time that representation matters, and that we have to openly talk, and communicate. Always say, you know, very thankful for this platform that allows us to share our stories and to talk about different topics and to see different sides of women, you know. Love when we have different types of guests that are doing things that you would never think about a woman doing. So, like, you know, so funny that you mentioned a woman race car driver. I had a client, I was talking to a client on Friday, and we spent like, you know, half an hour talking about, he was buying a car, and he is a race car instructor. He actually races car, and he teaches, he teaches people how to get their certification to be able to teach race car drivers. So, you
Mm-hmm.
know, so he's like, I sit in the driver's seat and I let them walk me through the process, and then I'll, you know, correct them or teach them or whatever. And then they get their certification to become instructors. So I was like, you know, just talking about the whole process and the whole, and then now to hear that you're telling me that there's a woman that actually does, like, I was amazed by everything he was telling me, but now even more amazed that a woman, you know, can own that, to be able to do that as well. So, I think representation is very important. Sometimes, you know, having those open conversations, you know, growing up, you know, we see our parents. In my case, you know, my parents were married, you know, until my mother died. And it was not all beautiful, you know. She went through a lot of struggles, but she stayed, and she stayed for the kids, for the family, for many reasons. It could have been a myriad of reasons. So for me, looking at, you know, from outside, you know, or inside, you could say, I'm looking at my mom, and it's like, okay, I'm a woman. I have to make this work. And sometimes, you know, you put yourself in situations and you're like, okay, this is what my mom did. This is what I'm going to do. So, you know, sometimes we become complacent and we're like, okay, you know, I have to take this because this is what you do to make it, you know, last. So I think it's important, you know, to have conversations, to talk, to ask for help, to, if you know, I think also, you know, with social media and with, I mean, the world that we're living in right now, it's easier to kind of be able to reach out for help, to be able to reach out to other people, to find people that may be in a similar position, to find women that, you know, again, like, in like, for me, like, I've been with my husband since I was 15 years old. If I were to be alone, I'm not saying that I can't do it. I am pretty sure that I can do it. But in my mind, I wouldn't even know where to start because I've never had to be in that position before. But if I had to, it's like, okay, I know 1,000 women that are single moms that live alone, that have done things on their own. Whether it is Facebook, whether it is social media, whether it is my work colleagues, you know, you're surrounded by all these people. And I think that's something that women in the past didn't have. They didn't have that empowerment or even knowing that it can be done. Because again, I think it starts with that. Okay, you're doing it. So if you're doing it, I can do it too. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's very scary. I'm divorced. So it is very scary. And you think about all the things that go wrong because it's very fearful. And I know, you know, people divorce for different reasons, but it's a huge decision, and it really impacts your self-esteem. It impacts
mhm,
the self-esteem of your children, both parties. Because I always think divorce is usually just not the fault of one person, right? Everybody's to fault
mhm,
for something, typically. Um, but I just think that just to be able to pick yourself back up, men and women, you know, is equal because it's a life. It's really heartbroken when a family is broken like that. But I
mhm,
think the resilience to be able to come out of it and to learn something from it, and like you were saying,
mhm,
to have those conversations. So like, just because I come from a broken family and then my family broke, then I try to have those conversations with my sons so that that doesn't duplicate, you know. And I think it's the empowerment to
mhm,
have those conversations, because if you don't, um more than likely the kids are not going to bring it up. But I think if you bring it up, and even I think I told you about a movie called It Ends With Us, about a
mhm.
domestic abuse situation. And I love that movie. And even though I don't have a daughter, but I was still able to, and my kids didn't see the movie with me, but I still had a conversation with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's my job as a female to then also teach my boys how to treat a female.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe they've seen their dad do some of it, but not maybe the way that I would want it to see it. So like my oldest son has a girlfriend, and so we have these conversations, or sometimes he'll say, they'll interact, and I tend to like go on her side, right, and like in a joking way, but that's just me teaching him how it should be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so many times we think it should be done in one particular way, but we don't show empathy to
Mm-hmm.
know the other person's perspective. And I think even as women too, sometimes there's the jealousy, or the yeah, mainly jealousy with other women, and nobody really steps to really be still and be empathetic of other people's situation. I think we're so quick to judge. If
Mm-hmm.
you're in a domestic abusive relationship, that I'm judging you because you continue to stay and you don't leave. But it's just like with marriages or friendships, like you don't nobody knows the details except for those two people, except for
Mm-hmm.
that one person. And I just think that a lot of it does have to do with self-love, and I just think that we need to do a better job, and it continues even in our
Mm-hmm.
40s, our 50s. It has to continue. Like I love, like when you talk about poetry, is just it brightens up like your entire face, and like it doesn't matter what's going on, like it is priority, because I think it fulfills you like internally, like your soul, your spirit, everything inside of you.
Yes, it's my therapy. I love it. Yeah, and I enjoy listening to it, not only, performing, but I have my days where I go to events and I'm like, I'm just here to watch. I'm just here as a fan. I'm here to listen. I'm here. I love that part of it. And I love that you mentioned that movie, It Ends With Us, because the movie, I think, it was not a typical movie about an abuser or a woman being abused. It was just a normal relationship, and it's again, it's what abuse. Like sometimes we think, okay, so the girl came from an abusive family. Well, we don't want to give away the entire movie, but the girl comes from an abusive family where she sees, her mom being abused by her dad, and it's like she tells herself, I will never allow that to happen to me, and all of a sudden she finds herself in that situation, and the guy didn't portray himself like that, and they didn't have that type of relationship. It just happened, and it was an accident, and then like it happened and an accident, and it was like, okay, wait, what's going on, and then she realized where she was. So again, having those conversations, sometimes we think abuse looks one way, and it doesn't. It can look a number of different ways, and that's again, I go back to educating ourselves, because sometimes you can only speak from what you know. And when, you can't judge somebody for not knowing what they don't know. So I think, having those conversations, educating ourselves, having that exposure, a lot of people question always, all the time, why did they stay? Why did they stay? Why does a person that's going through a situation stays, and again, it's different for everybody, but it's again educating ourselves, having those conversations, and knowing that everybody is different. And like you said, just being empathetic goes a long way, because sometimes again, we just believe in our heads that it cannot be done, that we cannot do it, that I will never be able to do it, until you have no choice and you go out there and you get it done, and you're like, oh, I did it. So it's just taking that first step.
Hmm. Yeah, and it happens to all type of women, pretty women, not pretty women, tall ones, short ones. It's not biased when it comes to culture or age. It happens to all of us. The
Facts.
abuse
Ah,
happens, and I don't know why do you think that even sometimes some of us just continue in that cycle? Like I've heard a lot of situations where you were in an abusive relationship, you end the relationship, and then you end up dating somebody else or marrying somebody else, but you continue to have that cycle again. What are your thoughts about that?
it's familiar. It's what's familiar and it's what I know. Sometimes you grow up and you are conditioned to it's same thing with people that are afraid of commitment. You are raised in this fight or flight reaction, and it's like, okay, it's getting too serious, it's time for me to go. That's what you know, and that's what makes you feel comfortable. And sometimes I feel it's the same thing. It's like, also we tend to look, so I think for everybody, we tend to look at the good parts of people, and it's like, okay, let me concentrate only on the good and not so much of the bad. When you have to look, we have to look at each other as a whole, and not everybody's perfect. You're never gonna find the perfect person, but it's like, okay, what am I willing to accept? And then also, you have to, I always say, you have to give people an opportunity and give people the benefit of the doubt. Because just like I was raised in this environment, I don't know what that other person went through as well. So, okay, can they change? Can I give them the opportunity to be better? So it's not black and white, so again, it's conversation. It's being able to talk about it, and if you love or care for the other person, how can I fix this? What do we need to do to fix it together? I think that's important.
Hmm. Yeah, that movie was very insightful for me because she didn't realize that she was in an abusive relationship
Hmm.
until then she had to like replay the incidents, but in her mind they really even watching the movie you didn't think that he was abusing
Correct.
her,
Correct.
but in
That's what I'm saying.
reality,
Looking from the outside, you're looking and you're like, oh, wait, he's not abusing her. He's not. He, like, not only was she convinced in her head, but us as an audience watching in, we were like, okay, no, that's not what's happening, until it was like, wait a minute. Yes, it was happening. And we were okay with
mhm.
it the entire time. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that movie. Also, I know that, the word chingona, that's something that we hear with the Mexican nationality, but I know in Colombia they will call a female like that. They call her berraca. So like just kind of like strong and like hard, or like a go-getter, stronger than a storm. You'll kind
yeah.
of do, just
And
do
Karol
life and
G,
whatever obstacles come.
Karol
you know
G came
you're
up with bichota. Karol G's
yeah.
Colombian too. So,
Yeah, yeah. So when I heard that word, it made me think about my grandmother because I see her in that
mm,
capacity. She has been through so many things, and she'll be 90 this year, and she's really, even now, not afraid to speak her mind. Like she'll say it. She'll say it. Like you guys know, like I love to sit down and talk to her and listen to her stories, because they're so valuable. And she really has gone through a lot. Even coming to this country, she doesn't have a lot of education, but she has really accomplished a lot of things. And I always tell her, like, it's nice for you to share your stories because I grow from those stories, knowing what you went through. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today. So I kind of like that. What do they call it in Dominican Republic? Like women like that.
that's a good one.
So I saw berraca, grosa, dura, caballota, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
an Ivy Queen term. Yes.
uh, yeah, una fiera. Fiera in Colombia is more like somebody that's fiery. I guess that's the same,
Spicy personality.
perhaps. Yeah. But I know just in general the word chingona, just everybody can kind of relate to it. So, but yeah, we do that. But we just wanted to say Demetria said hello, great show, and I think also our friend Valentina also made a comment. Valentina Rojas, and she's actually, and Lily Matos, of course. Valentina, she's a friend of mine. She is Mexican, and we always tell her she's a chingona, and then she'll call me a chingona. So it's and in any capacity, you know, it could be professional, it could be personal. So
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I was gonna ask you as well in reference to like the cultural side of things, right? Um, being here versus being in a Latin American country. Are the chingonas different here than the ones over there, or is it all the same?
Um, I think it's different. It is definitely different because culturally you're living in two different worlds. So like I think about what life would have been like over there, and versus life over here. And again, funny, because I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. I was at an event, and he was telling me, it was a gentleman I met at a book fair, and he was telling me how his son, he was a white man, and he said his son had a master's degree in Spanish, and he was able to be an exchange student, and he went to Spain, and whatever. So he was exposed to this whole different world, aside from his world, that allowed him to make the decisions that he made when he came to his career. He's a chef, has a degree in business studies, and then international studies, and then now a master's in Spanish. So and he's been all over Latin America and whatever. So I was saying the same thing. I have a cousin who, again, his father, they're rich, and he was in private school and was able to go to be an exchange student. I think he went to like Yugoslavia or something like that, and he was out there for years, and he came back dominating the language. I think my cousin speaks like 4 or 5 languages, and ended up living in Spain and married somebody from over there, and he just recently moved to the States. But again, if that probably would have been me, I don't know if I would have had those opportunities living over there. And then I came to the States, and had the opportunity to go to college and do all these things that my parents didn't get a chance to do. So I do think it matters. So when you see a woman that probably didn't come from money, and they've made a name for themselves, or given a career for themselves, or see them accomplish all these things that you never thought that they could, yes, they're chingonas in a different way, but nonetheless chingonas.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, like breaking those stereotypes, like the race car driver being a female, or Griselda, being a drug lord, like all these jobs or situations that we think are attached to female, those female roles. But I think going to the moon, being an astronaut, or
Mm-hmm.
even in the opposite, right, where most of the teachers are females, so when you find a male teacher, it's very unique, and then it's a different type of impact as well. And I just think
Mm-hmm.
that, and I know that we have Women's Month is in March, but I think we need to do a better job of highlighting it, because there is a lot of abuse happening towards women, not just with men, but women as well. And so I think that if we can highlight that, we could do a better job at placing value on women. And I think that that's probably what's wrong, is that the value system needs to be altered a little bit when it comes to women, and accepting of what we do and who we are. And I think I do see a lot of, because like I said, I give my life to TikTok sometimes, but I do see some men trying to do a good job at placing value on what women do and what we bring to the table, versus what the man should be doing. This is kind of off topic, but it just reminded me of a video that I saw. But I see a lot of footage of the old school mentality, like we're getting away from like the 50-50, like the woman does 50 and the man does 50. And I think a lot of men are starting to promote that, no, it's not 50-50, like I'm going to pay for everything. um and I don't know if it's a trend, or if it's fake, or if it's temporary. But I think part of it too, it's we because I think we got away from that. Women have had to hold their own, if that makes sense, you know? And so we hear a lot of relationships saying, "Oh, like I'm a female, like I don't need a man," right? But like you were saying, Maddie, you've been with your husband since you were 15. Can you do it on your own? Sure. Right? Is it going to be a struggle? Sure. But that's not the ideal situation. And I
Mhm.
think that's what has happened. I wanted to get your input on that, because I think I'm still a little old school, and I do believe in that male leadership, and guidance in the household. And when you don't have that, or it lacks, and there's no coming together to fix it, then I have to step up my game and just make it happen.
Mhm. I think, I think I heard Michelle Obama talk about this one time, and she said, when you are in a relationship, it's not about 50-50. It's about the capacity that I have at that moment. So if right now I can only give you 20, you have to give me 80. If right now you can only give me 40, I'm going to give you 60. So when you're in a relationship, because if you think about it, there's no way that you can be 50% for somebody all of the time. You cannot. There's no way. So we're never going to be there at that full capacity. So but we have to be able to be there for each other. Yes, that we go out to dinner, and you may pay. I might have one day that I say, you know what, I got this one, let me pay. If we are in a relationship. So yeah, while it's beautiful that the man can represent, and he can be there, but just like I expect my man to be able to say, you know what, today I'm going to clean the kitchen, let me wash the dishes. Why can we go out one day and I can say, I'm going to pay today? I'll take it out of your bank account, but I'll pay.
With your credit card.
But it's that, I think, we have to understand that we are expecting, again, when you look at old school roles and what it was, okay, so I'm gonna deal with a newborn, with a baby, the mom does all of this, the dad goes to work and brings the money, and when he comes home, he expects a meal. He doesn't care what mom went through the whole day with the baby and the newborn or whatever. I'm home, so how are you gonna take care of me now? So we had to figure all that out. Well, no, now, it's like, okay, all these things happen, and we understand kind of like the whole process, like, okay, my body just went through this traumatic experience. My body needs to get back, to normal, whatever that might mean now, because we know that it never goes back to what it was. It's a different normal. So I have to adjust to my new normal. And all of that takes time. And there's so many things involved in that process that you can expect me to, you go to work and then you come back and I'm okay. No, it doesn't happen like that. And I think, again, putting emphasis on the conversation and, educating ourselves, you kind of learn more, and then that opens that communication. So yeah, while I appreciate somebody, or knowing that somebody's taking care of me or will take care of me regardless of what happens, it also means that I have to be ready to be able to take care of that person if that person really needs me to take care of them. So
Hmm. That makes sense. And I think too, to be able to empower each other, because then if I'm in a positive relationship, and let's say my partner is really feeding me, helping me with my self-esteem, then we can kind of do that towards each other as well, not just the financial piece, but in all of it. And I think that also helps with the making sure that you don't fall into an abusive relationship, because it's not only the romantic relationships, but it could also be a friendship where somebody's kind of taking advantage of you as a friend. So to be able, like, why do you have this cycle going on? And for me to come to you so that you can give me that guidance, I think also helps with the self-esteem issue, so that we don't, because even family members can abuse.
mhm.
Yeah, I just thought about that.
100%. You can be in different types of abusive relationships, and sometimes, like you mentioned family, with family, it's like, okay, I have to take this because this person is family. No, it's about learning our boundaries, like setting boundaries. This is how much I'm willing to take, and sometimes, you have to go through stuff, and it takes time for you to learn, what I can take and cannot take. But it is okay to set your boundaries. You
Mhm.
have to
Yeah.
protect yourself.
Yeah. And I think we've mentioned this before too, how there's the love languages, the five love languages. And so usually we study them when we're in a romantic relationship with someone. But you can actually take the quiz yourself and provide yourself that love, whatever your love language is. You don't always have to wait for somebody else to
Mhm.
give it to you. So I think that that's important as well, because we don't want to have to rely on other people to bring satisfaction to me. I should be able to do it on myself as well. And if somebody else brings me that type of love, then it's just a bonus.
Mhm. It, like always, like as women, it's like we were content with somebody else making it happen, and then this person is supposed to know what I need to make me happy, and that's how I know that this person loves me, because they're making me happy. But how do I know what's going to make you happy when you don't know what's making you happy? So I think it's very important that we know, that we learn to um that that we know ourselves, so that we are able to voice and be able to ask for what we need. And I love, the love language. And I see it. I read, a friend of mine gave me the book, and I had, back in the days, the CDs. So I had the CDs for the book, and a very good friend of mine also had given me a hard copy of the book, and we used to talk about it all the time. And um, you know um, it was a girlfriend of mine, and I think I talked about it. My love language is touch. So that is one of my love languages, touch. And I remember that every time we used to get together, um, it was not unusual for us to hold hands. It was not unusual, to be sitting next to each other and be holding hands, and we were just, great friends. So but she knew that about me, and then for her it was, more words of affirmation. So um just knowing what the other person needs and expects, not so much expects, but what the other person would love to get from you. So again, communication and knowing yourself and knowing who you are, so that you can ask for what you need.
So knowing that that's your love language, how are you able to give that to yourself?
um so I think, sometimes, just taking care of myself, or doing things for myself, whether it is like, I know, I mean, I do it for different reasons, but like maybe getting my nails done. Like, I know I get my nails done every 3 to 4 weeks, and that's my time. I just go and do that for myself. um Getting my feet done. Again, I do that at least once a month. So I do certain things, for myself, whether it is, sometimes in bed, in a little ball, just me, going to sleep, or whatever I may need. Like lately, I've been noticing too, like sometimes when I have a lot of stuff going in my head at the same time, I have a hard time, like, slowing down, like settling down, like maybe going to sleep. And then of course, you got your phone in your hand, and that doesn't help. It's like, okay, stop looking at Facebook. And then now it's like, I'm playing like the number match. You have to make it to 10 or match the numbers or whatever. So it's kind of like an easy thing not to think, but you got to think, but it just lets you think on one thing. And it's like, I'm hooked. So now sometimes I'm like playing, I'm like, man, it's midnight, let me go to sleep. So I will, just go to bed and like literally rock myself to sleep. And I've been doing that more and more and more, and it helps. It helps me. I rock myself to sleep.
Yeah. Mine is acts of service. That's my love language.
Mm.
So because that's the way I realized it without even taking the quiz before, but I do that for other people. So that's how I show my love to other people. And I started to then think I appreciate it when people do things for me. So it's like double confirmation. And then when I'm really frustrated at something, I clean up and I organize galore. Like that's like my chill out moment to get me out of that mood of being stressed out.
Ooh,
And
mom is pissed. She's cleaning the house.
yeah, like, oh my God, and it's not Saturday. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do. But I just love that. Like, I love going into other people's space and helping them like organize whatever is stressing them out in their house. It just como que me sube energía. Like I get re-energized when I can help somebody, and to see them feel relief,
Hmm.
it fulfills me like 1,000%. So that's my love language. I did the love language quiz with my youngest son a couple of weeks ago. So his is quality time. So now we kind of talk about it. So like if we go to the movie, so he likes going to the movies, stuff like that. So I think it's great. And that's why I think it's one of the superpowers, right? To be a mom, because you could really take some of these adult concepts and bring it down to their level so that they're better people in the future.
Hmm.
So it was an opportunity for him to identify his love language, but also to have a conversation of like, hey, one day when you're dating someone, it might be a good idea to know what their love language is,
Hmm.
and then you're not going to give them your love language, you're going to give them their love
Love
language.
language.
So it
Hmm.
was a nice opportunity to kind of have that conversation. So you know always trying to not be a hoarder of information,
Hmm.
give it to other people as well. So yeah, that's important. And I just wanted to say some Mark, our producer, he's been posting more stuff on TikTok, so make sure that we follow him. We'll give you the information. And then he was also saying that sometimes we get caught up in the hamster wheel, and sometimes we're afraid to analyze ourselves. And I
Hmm.
think even knowing the five love languages and what your language is also beneficial because it's part of that self love. I remember there was a young lady, a therapist. She was telling me, Viviana, you could just grab whatever color. If there's a color or a scent that you enjoy, she said, just keep it in your purse. And if you ever have a moment of whatever, a negative moment, you just pull it out. You look at it, you smell it. It could be a picture of your kids, your grandkids, somebody that you love. So,
Hmm.
do you do any of those things,
Yeah,
Maddie?
I love scents. I mean, like, everybody that knows me knows that, if you want to get me anything, you get me a lotion, you get me perfume, you get me a candle, or you get me a necklace. So, it's like those are the things that you cannot go wrong with. So, I love candles. So I love cleaning, and after I clean, turning on a candle, like lighting up a candle. That's my thing. I love the scents, like in my purse. I always have. So I found, so my mom had this perfume that she loved, and I try to buy a bottle of the perfume, and they don't make it anymore. But I found, those oils, the scented oils that they sell. So I found the scent in a scented oil. So I bought like 3 bottles of it. So I always have it in my purse. So I just love smelling her. It's like literally like yeah, you smell it, and it just smells everything like her. So and I bought one for my daughter too, and I told her to have it, and she has it, and she's like, yeah, it smells just like mama. So that's a big one for me. But yes, taking a shower, and just putting lotion on my body. It's like my my husband says that I'm gonna slide up the bed one of these days, because it's like, yeah, I have, certain oil for my feet. There's a thicker one for my feet. Then there's one for my legs. There's one for my stretch marks, and then my back, my elbows, my arm. So that's my thing. I shower, and I think I spend 5 minutes in the shower, but then the next 5 minutes it's just me putting lotion. So probably more, maybe 10 minutes putting lotion on my body. So, and oils for the face and the ring. Like that's my thing. So that is normal. So yeah, so I guess that has to do with my love language too. I convert all the other
Yeah.
love language into mine. So
Yeah, and it's crazy because I do the same thing. But I've gone through some rough patches in my life that I don't do that, right? I'm not doing the self-care. And I notice I start to dress different. I start to like wear my hair up in a bun, and I'm not really, like grooming myself when it comes to looking like that. But then I might do that for like I realized that I did it like in November, December time, but then I had to pick it back up. And it feels amazing. So for ladies out there that might not be feeling the best, just I'm telling you, if you just try it, just the whole ritual of like placing the lotion on your skin
Mhm,
and it smells good. And
mhm,
then you might, and this is a little intimate, but then you put your pajamas on, and then the next day when you put your pajamas on, like your pajamas smell good, like it
mhm.
feels good. So I think it's just those little things. Like lately I'm doing like 3 layers of perfume. So I'll do an oil, I do a body spray, and I do perfume. So sometimes in the middle of the day I'm like, dang, I smell good. you know?
I love it.
So I just think it's part of that self-love. Like in my office, I have a eucalyptus oil. So I don't like the bright lights. So I have this little lamp and I do the oil and I put it around my hands and I just take a sniff at it. And I think it's just finding those places that you're gonna feel good. And sometimes life could be so busy that the only place could be your car, and
Mhm,
that's fine as well. I remember when I was going through my divorce, I would have to go over a bridge every day. But I decided to make it that moment for me to just chill and relax, either because I was leaving home or I was about to go home. So just, and it was crazy, Maddie. Like I started to notice the birds would stand on the street lamps, the street lights, and I didn't notice them before, but it was because I became so in tune with the things that were around me because I was looking for peace. And I'm telling you, if it wasn't for that bridge, I don't know what it would be like once I got home or left home. So it's those little things that are
mhm,
so significant.
mhm. Yeah, like for me, it's like coming home and literally sitting in my car for an extra 5 minutes. Literally, I do it every single day. I get home and it's like, kind of like decompress and, whatever it might look like. And then, okay, I'm ready to continue. So, you know, but you need those little moments. It's like you just need that to kind of gather yourself. And like you said, you learn what that did for you. So it's again finding those things that can help you kind of reel it back or put it back together, or maybe switch, because like I said, we just keep putting all these hats on, and it's like, okay, I was just having a smart conversation about finances with somebody, and now I have to go talk about why didn't you save your $5, and why do you do DoorDash instead of getting in your car and going to buy it? And like those conversations, with the kids, it's like, oh my God, you know how hard I had to work to give you $20, and then you just order a milkshake and you spend 15 because you didn't feel like going out to get it, so you DoorDashed it. Listen, so it's like, okay, how am I gonna make that switch? How am I gonna prepare myself to go from this to be this? Yesterday I worked in the morning, and then I had an event, an authors fair, and it was just a bunch of tables with a bunch of authors, talking about their books and talking to people that were coming by, and it was like, again, making that switch. And then I spent about 5 hours there, and it was like, okay, now I get to go home. So it's like, okay, I did these three things, and I was three different people in the same day, back to back to back, and it was hot, and it's like, and then I still had to be me. So
Yeah. So did you tell your friend that Latinos contribute $3.7 trillion? I don't know if our audience knows this, but we just want to let you know that Latinos contribute $3.7 trillion to the economy. Just FYI, just in case you didn't know. We got to make sure we say this every show because we're talking about self love. And as we talk about self love, Maddie, it's not just that I'm going to give myself some self love because I'm a female, but also if I have love for my culture, for my people, then it helps me to also have better self love. ¿Verdad?
Facts. Facts. Like again, when you know who you are and what makes you tick, you're able to communicate that better. And again, and sometimes when we do things, when we set the example, the other person will follow too. Just like you're having those conversations with your son, and like teaching your son, okay, this is what you like, and just because this is what you like, that doesn't mean that this is what your girlfriend is gonna like. You got to learn what she likes so that she can give you what you like, but then you can give her what she likes. So again, when you know who you are, not only are you setting the example for the person that is watching you, but you're able to communicate that better and then receive it better too. Because when you know that not everybody works the same way, you are not going to get offended if that person tells you, well, I don't like when you touch me that much. What do you mean you don't like when I touch you? When that's all I want to, I want you to do to me. I want you to touch me all the time, make sure that we're close to each other. But that does not make me feel good. So when you know that people are different, you are more open to receive the information that they want to communicate as well. And I think that's important as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, our producer said it is not 3.7 million or billion, it is trillion. So we just wanted to re-emphasize the T for trillion. But yeah, it's true, Maddie, what you were saying. It's just self-reflection.
Mhm.
Have time to do self-reflection. Even sometimes, like you say, you with three people in one day, to really try and find a few minutes in between changing hats to just
Mhm.
breathe, to just breathe and say, okay, because then at the end of the day, you become like extra, extra exhausted. And it just kind of like the day just went by and it's like, okay, what? And then you're just tired and then you don't really get
Mhm.
to enjoy the moment. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to work on, especially when I get home, because sometimes I get home and then my son, basketball, then, my mom, my grandmother, this, that, the phone call, the text message. But I think it's finding that time. I've tried to do a better job with placing alarms on my phone to remind me to just like, because I know around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, like I'm trying to settle down. So that would be a good time for me to just do a little bit of self-reflection, because I notice that when I don't do that, then I don't see growth in me, and then I
Mm.
become tired and I become stagnant. um so I think that's important as well. Muy importante. um So our time is up. So we're ready for the poem that Maddie does at the end of every show. So I can't wait to see what you got for us today, because you always come up with like the perfect poem. It's almost like you have a poem for every situation, because it's like lista.
um yeah, just a lot of repeats, but yeah, no, that's the beauty of it. You know poetry. I was talking to somebody yesterday about poetry. The person wrote a book, but it was a novel, and I was like, do you write poetry? And she's like kind of yes, but like for me, and I was like, and she's like, I wouldn't even know how to write a poem. I said that's the beauty of poetry, that there is no format. I mean, there is format, so if you want to write in a particular format, of course you got to educate yourself so that you can kind of stick to the rules. But just putting your feelings on paper, it's like it's you. So if you want to repeat the same word 10 times, that's your poem. You repeat the word 10 times because it makes you feel something. So just be yourself. So anyway, so again, a reminder of our events. The 30th of May, we're going to be at the Kimball Theater in Williamsburg, Virginia. So that's May 30th, VA all day. And then June 4th, we're going to be at the venue on 35th Street in Norfolk. We're also fundraising through our book, Bend Them Till They Break, which is a collection of poems from the 2025 Bird Bender Slam team. It's $15. Reach out to me. It's not on Amazon anywhere. We order like a limited copies and we have them. So come to the event in June 4th and you can get a copy. So this poem that I'm going to read for you guys today, I wrote last month and during National Poetry Month. And it's about my name.
Okay.
And knowing yourself, knowing who you are, and carrying yourself. So I think that goes with today's topic. So my first language is Spanish. If you know you some Spanish, then you know there's no hiding behind the sounds. The letters are transparent, each with a purpose. They say what they mean what they say. So ever since I can remember, I question my name. It is read Madeline, but it is pronounced Madeline. I always wonder why there was an E hiding at the end, being silenced, taken away. Maybe because I wasn't ready for all the extra I will have to carry along the way. The years of hating parts of me that I would have rather been taken away. Modify to match the foreign sound when you shorten the end, refine the nose, straighten the hair, bleach the skin, my hips heavy like the harsh weight a simple accented letter can add to a name. True story. I've always had a hard time imagining an elderly version of Madeline. Gray hair and wrinkled skin do not match the softness in which it is pronounced. In my head, an early grave, because this combination of name and body is not supposed to last, as if I needed another reason to pick myself apart, to continue to degrade the person in the mirror, butchering their name, self-hate on display. The extensive amount of times I would have to defend who I am, not whitewashed or French. No, really, I'm Dominican, but this name never looked like me. Not ethnic enough, always trying to dim the glow in this cocoa butter skin, the duality of being soft and well-mannered, plastered on a body made of riots and scream, fighting to exist, to match its history with the restraint required when it slides instead of rolling off the tongue. Maybe it's not supposed to match. Call it voodoo, witchcraft, or just God. We all know the meaning of words can change with times. Madeline is a French English name, but maybe I was meant to infuse it with this Afro-Caribbean pride as I reclaim all that has been taken away, not having to hide all of who I was, am, and will be when I pronounce my name out loud, when I embrace the way it was supposed to be. Madeline.
That was great. It makes me want to write something about my name.
Do it. Do it.
You know, it's so crazy, right? We only got a minute or so, but my name is Viviana. And when I first came to this country, it was like third or fourth grade. And I think within a year, I changed my name to Vivian. I told people that my name was Vivian because I wanted to sound American, right? As if I was not from another country. And then for a long time, people called me Vivian, high school. But once I went to college, I, I never legally changed it, but I'm very proud to tell people it's Viviana, right? So like, don't put no double N on it, and make sure you put the A at the end, right? So it's part of what we've been talking today of like knowing who you are and to feel so proud that my name is Viviana, not Vivian. So it's part of that self-love. So that goes like right aligned with what we were talking about. So I love your poem. It's awesome. Like I said, you always bring the stuff that we need to hear. So our time is up. But we hope that you guys will join us again next Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We hope that you have an amazing week. And again, as always, we want to
On
say thank
purpose.
you on purpose, as Tangi would say. And don't forget to share with people that Latinos contribute $3.7 trillion to the economy. And Maddie will be here again next Sunday to recite one of her poems. So we always look forward to it. And again, thank you to Mark, our producer, Pod TV. Where we're able to be who we are and be ourselves here, Maddie and I. And we'll say hello to Nikte as well, and hopefully she'll be with us next week. But I hope you guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you again next Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me with all my grades. They all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be.
A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.